Alright, so hello and welcome to my little tutorial on how to make a coin. It's mostly based off this other tutorial, which I will also link below. But I am new to Blender, so take everything I say with a grain of salt and be aware that this is all experimental. It might not be the usual practice of doing stuff, but without further ado, I will get into it. So to start off, obviously you need your coin images. Okay, so I think I'm gonna choose this Denarius of Octavian because it looks pretty crisp. So without further ado, I'm gonna I'm gonna take note of the section number and I'm gonna save image coin files, new folder. We're gonna call it Denarius. Oh, wait, shit. Okay, I put that in there. No, reverse. Okay, let me update this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go into an image processing software such as Krita, but you can just use Photoshop if you already have access to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my little Greek coin, or Roman coin, my bad. And we're gonna go into filter, we're gonna um make this desaturated. And I like to do probably like the first one just because I think it looks nicer. Let's hit OK, and we're gonna do filter, and then we're gonna do adjust auto contrast. And so that's just gonna um, bump the contrast of our image slightly, make the whites whiter and the darks darker, so it's gonna be nicer for our depth map when we compute that. So I'm gonna save. Okay. And then file, we're gonna do the same for the reverse as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and, oh, it looks like there's a hair on this image. But anyways, we're gonna do the exact same thing. So filter, um, adjust, desaturate, do the luminosity setting, okay. Then filter, adjust, auto contrast. So that'll just bump up the contrast of our image slightly. And then save that. So then once we're done with that, we can go ahead and add our images to make a depth map real quick. And so this depth map is just gonna be able to automatically generate the 3D topography of the coin, which is really cool, just based off the shadows in the image. It's kind of interesting to look at, but um, I'm just gonna go ahead and just do that real quick. So we're gonna hit compute depth. And then there we go. This is what the depth map looks like. And we're actually gonna download the grayscale version of it for our guide. So we're gonna go ahead and hit that. It's gonna have a weird name for some reason. And then I'm gonna do that again for the reverse. Okay, get that. Okay, and so now that we have our images and we've processed them, we can go ahead and head over to Blender. And let's just make a new general file. I'm gonna hit delete on that to get rid of that. And then I'm gonna start by adding in what's called a plane mesh to just get started with our coin. So I'm gonna press Shift A to bring up this menu, and we're gonna add in a plane mesh over here. So this is our beautiful, beautiful plane. And then we're gonna want to subdivide this plane so that's like divided into many small planes for so we can get the topography of the coin face. So we're gonna press tab. So when we press tab, you see we switch from object mode to edit mode. So that's how you switch back and forth. So now that we're in edit mode, we're going to right click on the plane and then we're going to subdivide it. And in this menu, we're going to increase the number of cuts to about 30. You can experiment to see if more or less helps out, but this is just what my video guide told me to do, so we're going to stick with it. Um, and so we're going to tab again, switch back to object mode, and we're going to go into this modifier menu. Okay, so now that we have our plane that's subdivided nicely, we're going to go ahead and add what's called a displacement modifier. And so this displacement modifier is going to use our depth map to displace the plane so that it fits the topography of the depth map, essentially. So we're going to do new, edit, open, like, I think this is it. And so make sure you select your depth map, not your image. Very easy mistake to make. I've done that before. Um, and so you should get something like this. And then back in the modifiers, actually, I'm gonna right click and shade auto smooth first. Just to smooth out some of those edges. And then let's also change the strength to maybe about 0.5. You can go a little, maybe a little higher even. See how that looks? No, I like 0.5. Um, there we go. So that looks pretty nice so far. Um, and now we're basically gonna add another modifier called a subdivision surface. And this again is just gonna give us more subdivisions. So then as the plane is divided up, it can have more information in the little, it can have more detail in like the edges. And so I like to put the levels up to at least 3. So this 3 looks pretty nice. Might even go up to 4. Yeah, that looks pretty crisp. Um, so now that we have that, we can even add another smoothing modifier called a smooth corrective. Um, which this isn't super necessary, but it might make it look nicer, so just play around with this a little bit. So, oh, and we're gonna do only smooth. Okay, there we go. That's better. So maybe do, I think I like around 7 because it still smooths it without losing a ton of the detail in the hair and whatnot. So I'll just keep it to around that. But be careful because you could accidentally smooth out details. So now that we have our cute little plane, we have to actually turn this into a 3D cylinder because as you see, it's hollow. So the way I do that is a little janky. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think this is the correct way to be doing this, but I just know that it works and it seems to be 3D printable, which in my mind is all that matters. So if it works, essentially. We're gonna go back to our modifier menu, add another modifier. We're gonna do solidify. And so this will add some thickness to our plane. So I'm just gonna experiment, maybe do like 0.25 of a meter. Um, yeah, so as you can see with the geometry of everything, it tends to get a little wonky. But again, that will be fixed soon enough, but I think maybe even like 0.3. I don't want to go too much, but I just want it so I can essentially like take a cylinder and like cut it out of this shape, like a cookie cutter, to get a nice coin shape. Okay, so now we're gonna press Shift 8 again to add another mesh. This time we're gonna do a cylinder, and I'm just gonna like play around with this for a bit until it feels like it fits our coin pretty nicely. And you want this to be slightly larger than the radius of the coin, because what we're basically going to do is a Boolean modifier. So anywhere that this plane intersects with the cylinder is what we're going to cut out, if that makes sense. So I'm going to play around with it for a bit and then I'll be right back. And also, by the way, to be able to edit the dimensions of a mesh after you've already created it, you just select it and then press N, and then this menu pops up, and so you can like slowly, change things about it. But oh, and I also find that it's helpful to maybe put it on wireframe mode so that you can see exactly what's going to be cut out by your mesh. And so you just want it to intersect, maybe so that's like a little bit above the base of the coin, so that we can get a pretty thin coin. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with the um dimensions of my cylinder now because they perfectly encapsulate the coin, and it's not too thick, so it should look pretty nicely when it's done. So now that I'm done with that, which again I did through this menu over here, I'm gonna go ahead and maybe change this to solid mode to make sure it looks nice still. Maybe I could actually still adjust it a little more, so we're gonna like maybe move it up and also make it slightly thicker. Let's move it up again. And yeah, I think I'm happy with this. So we're gonna go ahead and switch to solid mode. Everything looks nice. It's all nicely encapsulated. Um, and so what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna do our plane, add yet another modifier. You guessed it. And we're gonna do Boolean modifier. And let's do intersect, so it's gonna be where these two objects intersect. So we're gonna do our cylinder. Might take a minute. And we're gonna do float for our solver. Now, when we hide this mesh, we have our beautiful, beautiful coin. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and let's save our beautiful image. Um, our beautiful model. My bad. So let's call it Denarius 2024.1.28, and let's do obverse.blend. So we're gonna save that file. Let's do save copy, and let's call it reverse. And then from there it's pretty easy to make the reverse. Man, I can't even tell which is which. Okay. Because literally all you have to do that is to go back in our displace modifier, if you see our modifier menu here, and we literally just swap out this texture. Like that's all you need to do, which is pretty sweet. So go ahead and it's a little wonky. I guess that's just how the coin is shaped, where it's like off-centered like that, but hey, doesn't look that bad. So now we're gonna save this, and we're actually gonna export this. So file, we're gonna export as an STL, export STL, and then let's do the same for our obverse file, export STL. Okay, so now we're gonna do a new file to actually combine these two faces, and then we're gonna do file, import STL, and go ahead and I guess we just do it one at a time. So we do the reverse maybe first, and then file, import STL, the obverse. So now we have both our faces, they're overlapping, but we can easily change that. If we press R, that'll give us the ability to rotate our coin. It's pretty cool. but I'm gonna press Y as well. So then it only rotates on this axis. And then we're just gonna have it rotate by 90, or actually, it would be 180 degrees. So just type in 180, and then we have this. Pretty cool, right? Actually, it looks like the crack is maybe misaligned, so we can maybe even try to align that by again pressing R and just see where it lines up. Yeah. Oops. Sorry, I probably should have selected a plane. So maybe would it be on the z-axis? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Um, maybe I'll try to line it up a little better and then we'll combine them. So now that these are, fairly lined up all right, we're gonna go ahead and actually stick them together the official way. Um, and so we can sort of do that by pressing G, which is just grab. So we're gonna press this and G. Um, and we're gonna again select plane to do it on, or an axes to move it on. So we're gonna do Z, so it goes up, and then we're actually gonna go ahead and press this little magnet thing and to put on some snaps, and then we're gonna do this drop down button. We're gonna do this little drop down button. We're gonna do face so that it can snap on faces. And then we're just gonna go ahead and press G again. And this time I'm gonna try to make it, oh, G and Z. And yeah, you should just feel it like snap into place like that, which is pretty nice. Um, so yeah, our planes are pretty much aligned right now. They should be flushed together, right? It doesn't look like there's a gap at all between these two. So we're just gonna go ahead and select these two, and then we're gonna press Control J to join it. And so now these are one object. So I mean, there's still a plane dividing the two in the inside, but they should be one. Um, and it might be ready to be 3D printed already. So we're gonna go into edit mode. Press tab. We're gonna do select all by trait, non-manifold. And then we're gonna do mesh, clean up. Let's do merge by distance first. Gonna merge some of those holes. And then mesh, normals. Let's recalculate outside. And then again, we're gonna do mesh, clean up, fill holes. This might take a second to run. And then finally, we're gonna do mesh, clean up, and let's do delete loose. So hopefully delete some of those loose edges. All right, so now press tab back into object mode. Our coin, it's not looking too bad. I'm gonna save it, because you always want to save. And I'm just gonna go ahead and rotate it, maybe along the y-axis. Let's do a good 90 degrees. Um, Not bad. Oh wait, it looks like that's not great. Well, it lines up with the chip. Um, yeah, this could be up to decision, because it appears that this chip that went all the way through should be lined up like that. But again, it's your decision how you want to line up this coin. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's try, let's press N and let's look at the 3D toolbox again, see if that helped a little bit. So now that we're back and our checks have run, it looks like we still have some issues with the model, particularly with the zero faces and the intersect faces, but I'm pretty hopeful that this will still print. Obviously like monitor your print, because this is again experimental. We don't know how exactly it's gonna turn out, so it's better just to be safe on that end. But overall, I'm hopeful, and this is essentially the end of the process. Again, like maybe some things you can do is like go through the internet to see what other things to look out for when 3D printing, especially with these checks over here and how to minimize those. Since the displacement map, will give you some, really weird geometry, especially if you look inside here, like this is just odd. Um, Maybe just further research has to be done on how to minimize that. Um, and also, I think asking ChatGPT is honestly a great resource because it just makes the research process a lot faster and smoother. So definitely go check a look at that. But this is essentially then the guide, and this should be our end product over here. All right, bye.